hear the question, but I will repeat it so we can hear it. Tell me if I phrase it wrong, but the question was, why do so many people now think that they are enlightened? First of all, of course, thinking you are enlightened isn't being enlightened. And I can understand that in some scenarios people might have a very deep spiritual experience or even a realization that they might confuse with enlightenment. Enlightenment is, of course, very hard to explain and to express. So in that sense, it is logic that people might confuse it with something else. I think that there are a lot of enlightened experiences. There are a lot of enlightenment moments, but that isn't enlightenment. And if you tell people, and that's mostly when I talk about enlightenment, if you tell people what enlightenment truly is, then it means full extinguishment of the self. Full extinguishment of the self. Can you realize that? Full extinguishment of the self means there is no more sense of self, of I. There is also no difference between me and you, us and them. All these things will disappear. There are no more feelings of pride. I am proud of, because in order to be proud there needs to be an ego. It needs to reflect on an ego. There is no more anger, because in order for anger to exist, there needs to be an ego. If there is anger, it means that there is something that can feel hurt, and that something is an ego, is the thought or the sense of I, that which I think I am. That which I think I am. So that which I think I am can be heard. As long as the thought of I is still there, all these subjects will still be there. And therefore, in those moments, a certain kind of pain or suffering can be caused because of that ego. Is there still suffering? True suffering. Suffering needs to be reflected upon something. I am in pain. Is there still a form of earthly thought that connects you with the here and now? Well, that is still possible. Because if somebody is enlightened and he chooses to remain here, and I will get into that after this, he chooses to remain here, then that means that he's doing the effort to materialize in the present moment. So it is actually a manifestation of self in the present moment. But if it's an enlightened person, there is no self, so the manifestation needs to be aroused. And then we come to the next point, which is, how do you arouse this feeling that there must be some kind of manifestation in the present moment? The manifestation in the present moment can only occur if, when the person was on this path towards enlightenment, he had the strong connection of, I am not doing this for myself, but I'm doing this for all sentient beings. And of course, in Mahayana Buddhism, we would call that the Bodhisattva vow. But in Theravada, that also happens. And in Theravada, it is actually done by repeating and constantly remembering the Brahma Vihara, which is the four foundations of loving kindness: metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. And doing such in the sense that one realizes through chanting and through meditation that all this is being done for all sentient beings, in order to remain here and ultimately be able to help as many people that want to be helped, So in that sense, it's very important to understand that enlightenment is complete extinguishment of the self. And of course, as in a habit, we are usually quite afraid of this extinguishment of the self. I even get questions during retreats: if I would be able to extinguish the self, would I still be able to love my husband? Would I still be able to live my life as a mother or a father? And of course, that is possible. The only thing is, it completely changes. The emotional roller coaster that is involved with earthly love disappears, and everything turns into universal love. So in that sense, if it has become universal love, there is no ego involved. It is not only for your children. It is not only for your dog. It is not only for the self. It is for every sentient being. Yes, that is including the scorpion and the snake and whatever creepers and crawlers you can imagine. They are part of that as well. They are part of that whole universe of sentient beings. So that extinguishment will definitely not happen if there is even the slightest fear of extinguishment of the ego. If that fear is still there, then that is exactly one of the grasping points, one of the attachments that causes this not to happen. And everything until that moment is not fully enlightened. Nibbana, the realization of Nibbana in yourself, is a realization in this moment, right now. And when that happens, you will know. And the people around you will also know. Even if they don't want to acknowledge it. But ultimately, it is very clear. That's why the Buddha also clearly said, not being touched by praise for what you might have achieved, and not being touched if people let you down, or maybe even scold you. He or she thinks that he is so and so. Scolding is not part of your world, and praise is not part of the world. So pride is not part of that world. Sorrow disappears. There is only happiness in the present moment. Nibbana is the only thing that is constant. All other creations, everything you can see here, be it the Buddhas, be it the Tangas, Mandalas, all the people you see here, they are all ultimately sabba tama anicca, which means they will perish. They can never last forever. All these things that we see around us, all these created things, they will ultimately disappear. There's only one thing that remains as a constant, and that is the realization of Nibbana. That's why when somebody who has reached Nibbana, that person will go straight into what we call Paranibbana. He will become one with that stream, that flow, that constant flow of Nibbana. And in the West, people might call this a godly energy, because that is, of course, a social, religious thing. And in the East, we will call that Nibbana. It is a constant flow of energy. Both are okay. Whatever sticker you want to put on it, it doesn't matter. Did that answer your question?